More than 4 billion people live across this vast continent called Asia, and we are telling their stories. On this edition, they may not be professional firefighters, but they respond just as quickly during an emergency. Living in a restricted area that's earmarked for wildlife protection and conservation.
I'm Barnaby Lo, and this is Assignment Asia. From 2013 to 2017, almost 78,000 fire incidents were recorded in the Philippines, or an average of 42 a day. Certainly an overwhelming burden for the 25,000-strong firefighting force of the government. But as I found out, the force doesn't have to deal with this hazard alone. They're assisted by thousands of volunteer firefighters who sacrifice their time, resources, and sometimes even safety by helping to put out fires.
A hectic work week settling into the weekend. But on the horizon, above a dense suburban Manila community, clearly, an emergency was brewing. It was a Friday, late February. The days were getting hotter in the Philippines. Fires more frequent. Within an hour, hundreds of houses were burning. And before the day ended, thousands were left homeless.
With regards to fire alarms, well, it's always a concern in Metro Manila. We have a big concern over the informal sectors, where most of the big conflagrations are happening.
The size of the fire that February evening required a fleet of trucks and an army of firefighters.
The DFP now has a total manpower of 25,000 firefighters. The standards the standard is about 50, so we're just half of that. But we're doing at least well with regards to complying, and that's why we have force multipliers. We have the fire brigades.
Volunteer firefighters, that is. You can count on them to be there whenever and wherever fire hits in the country's urban areas.
Hindi namin naiisip yung gano'n na kadelikado na pwedeng mangyari sa amin. Basta kami parang, for me, parang basta tulong tayo, responde, and that's it.
Alex Pinpin and his co-volunteers at Golden Fire and Rescue were one of the first on the scene of fire that fateful February weekend. They were in the vicinity and were available. For Alex, who works the overnight shift, that meant having to sacrifice sleep.
How hard is it to juggle all these things that you have to do?
For me, siguro number one, time management. Kasi, ayun, kailangan mong ayusin yung time mo. Yung work mo, hindi mo pwedeng pabayaan kasi kailangan mo yun for your family. That's the priority. Yun naman din ang usapan namin. That's our priority kung ano yung work namin. Kahit na gaano kalaki pa yung sunod na yan. And then if you have work, well, that's your priority. Pasok ka.
Alex is, as a matter of fact, very much a family man. Outside of work, most of his time is spent with family. But at the same time, he's also equipped to respond to the call of civic duty straight from his home.
Obviously, it didn't look like this before. Nilagyan mo ng mga...
Actually, nakuha ko siya ganyan na. Si Jerwin ang nag-modify nitong sasakyan.
Okay. So So, dual purpose ito, kotse?
Oo.
Okay, so personal.
Personal, and then at the same time, pag kailangan mag-responde, ito yung ginagamit ko para mabilis maka-responde at makuha yung truck.
So,
So, yung
That's
nasa
inside.
loob niya is, of course, my gear.
Wow.
We call it the bunker,
Yeah.
the boots, and then the fire pants, plus the helmet. And ito kasi, yung BA, this is the one yung para makakahinga ka sa loob pag mausok. Tapos, ito,
What? Sorry.
we call it, that's SCBA.
SCBA.
Self-contained breathing apparatus. Pero for
Okay.
short, it's BA, breathing apparatus.
Okay.
Kasi masyadong mahaba.
Ay, parang oxygen?
It would last yung mga 45 minutes sa loob ng sobrang, yung hindi kaya ng normal na yung papasok ka lang.
So, kompleto, no? So, parang
oo.
you're ready anytime to
correct.
respond to a fire.
Totoo.
Okay.
Wala lang akong
Kulang
tubig.
na lang tubig, no?
The previous owner of Alex's improvised emergency response vehicle, Jerwin Kwan, is somewhat of a mentor to Alex. In fact, Alex says he became a firefighter because Jerwin made it possible.
One time I went to the restaurant of Jerwin and then I ordered. And the purpose of that is para nga ma-meet ko siya at the same time makapag-inquire about volunteer firefighting or firefighter. Then from there, nasabi niya, kailan ka pwede and this is my available time. Balik ka rito if you're really interested.
That was more than 10 years ago. Since then, Alex and Jerwin, together with the rest of Golden Fire and Rescue, have been putting out fires together, week in and week out.
I believe we're around less than 15 kami na firefighters ng Golden.
Less than 15 lang kayo?
Less than.
How often do you respond to fires?
Madalas, especially pag may calls, pag may callers, pag may mga kakilala.
No kidding. We spent weekends with them.
Please call the non.
The radios on frequencies that send out fire alarms, never out of their sight. They take turns manning their station. But that's not to say they wouldn't rush to the scene of fire if they could, from wherever they were. And while there were relatively slow days,
So it turns out it was just a small fire, and when we got here, fire was out already. But you see just how many volunteer firefighters responded to this fire incident.
there were days that seemed never-ending. One moment, they were distributing water. The next minute, we were racing through Metro Manila traffic. Trying to get from one side of town to another. The fire was apparently spreading fast. All available volunteer firefighters in Metro Manila were being called on to assist.
So we were actually on our way with our firefighter friends to ration water. There's a water supply shortage here in Metro Manila right now, but they got a call for help. So here we are, they're responding to a fire.
It was the month of March. Days were dry, temperatures rising. Statistically, the season with the highest number of fire incidents as well, especially in Metro Manila, a sprawling, densely populated urban center of almost 13 million residents. In 2018, the region accounted for almost a third of all fires in the Philippines. That's around 4,000 out of 14,000 cases.
How dangerous are these?
The hazard itself is, as you can see, if there are electrical fires that can occur, it can just easily got all of the houses nearby.
I mean, I don't even have to go inside. I can see how dense this community is, how many people there are here, how many... I mean, the houses are like
They're on
so
top of
close
each other.
together.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, they're interconnected. Because they're interconnected, and you can imagine one household is trying to cook their meal during morning, afternoon, evening. So always the risk is high.
Volunteer firefighters often have the advantage of being community-based. Jerwin was first on the scene, for instance, when this row of apartment buildings was under the threat of fire.
His truck was the very first to go in and pour water on the fire. And yeah, it gives you a feeling of comfort. And knowing that this is not their job, they're not paid to do this, this is voluntary, and yet they rush into danger when everybody else runs away.
How fast were they? Because I mean, it's just right across.
It's right across the street. They're very fast, but they respond to all fires. I mean, we hear them, right? When there's a fire, we hear them come out.
Yeah.
And that's why we support Jerwin's restaurant.
Jerwin's path to being a volunteer firefighter and a philanthropist began in a tragic episode. He and his family were once fire victims.
It was morning, I was in school. So I was just informed na nasunog daw yung bahay namin saka yung store, yung restaurant. So when I came home, nakita ko from afar na sunog nga yung ibang part. So talagang yun parang syempre natakot, di ba? Tapos wala kaming kuryente. Yun. Tapos yung kapitbahay namin kasi made out of light materials that time, ubos na ubos. Nakwento lang sa akin nila, papa nila, mama na may mga volunteer firefighters na binantay yung place namin kasi umaapoy na yung ibang part. So para hindi siya totally masunog, at least may mas-save. Yun. Okay. So binantayan talaga nila. So parang more of prevention yung ginawa nila? Yeah, the same.
Did you ever meet the volunteer firefighters? Did you get to... na nakausap mo ba sila?
No, well, kasi I was coming from school so when I came from school, wala na
okay.
It was,
not even after that?
Wala na.
Okay. Pero kahit di mo sila nakausap, you got inspired?
Yeah, because syempre, nalaman ko nga na ganun nangyari, tapos there are people na who risk their life, tapos and yung resources nila to do that. Kaya yun, na-inspire ako gawin siya.
While in college, Jerwin joined a volunteer firefighter brigade. In 2006, he purchased his first truck and dressed it up just like he did Alex's second-hand sedan. More than 10 years later, he's added another truck and a small fire station, largely funded by profits from his own food business, Golden Chicken House. And like most firefighters, Jerwin's had some close calls.
We were on Macapagal area, so Pasay, Parañaque boundaries, squatters din. Nandun kami sa roof nung mga burning houses sa katabi. Then tapos naangat nung firefighter na kasama ko, yung Proby pa siya that time, naangat niya yung hose and I was at the edge na nung roof. I almost fell sa fire doon sa
Wow.
It happened and naalala ko pa yun.
But life-threatening situations do not discourage Jerwin. It's a cause he has had no qualms taking on, alongside entire communities across the Philippines.
In other countries, they have some volunteer firefighters, but only the role of the firefighter is giving free service, but the equipment, fire trucks, and tools were owned by the government. Unlike in Philippines, only private citizen own fire station, from equipment, from fire hose to public the firefighters without any salary.
A community effort, according to the former head of the Association of Philippine Volunteers Fire Brigade, Vincent Chan. From those who donate their money to those who donate their time. Beverly Kiak, whose brigade occasionally teams up with Jerwin's and Alex's Golden Fire and Rescue, has been a volunteer firefighter since she was 17.
What made you decide that you wanted to be a volunteer firefighter?
It started way back in high school. My brother had their own group, which is it's a medic communication group. Consists of mainly their friends, group of friends, and every day after school they would stay at home.
And then you would see them, what, like talking about
Yeah,
what they've been doing?
Because every time they would stay at home and they would tell a lot of stories.
And it made you feel excited?
Yes. Maybe because I really love helping other people. When I was young, I would always think of putting up my own organization or even an orphanage.
Beverly does not run an orphanage, but she did call this fire station home for a while.
After work.
Literally, you live
Yes. This is my bed.
This still is.
Yes, still is my bed, as you can see.
Okay. And what made you decide to move out?
Because we have to transfer to another place, to another house with my brother. And it's kind of far from here.
Okay.
So I decided to move out.
Do you miss it?
Sometimes I do, but I think as I get old, my priorities changes also.
So your priority now is more your family?
Yes, family, work.
I see.
And
Do you
yet,
miss
she
living?
does find time. She was with us on that relatively slow weekend. Just as Jerwin and Alex were running out of water, she arrived with fresh supply for rationing to needy residents. And when a slum neighborhood caught fire that same night, she didn't hesitate to run to the scene.
I mean, it's a lot of work for something that you're not getting paid for.
Yes, it is, but then this is really my passion. So we don't do this for the paychecks or anything, but maybe just seeing other people, or maybe this gives me the happiness or the fulfillment, seeing or making an impact in the lives of others.
Beverly, Alex, Jerwin. They all admit to somehow being motivated by the excitement and thrill that comes naturally from being face to face with crisis. But at the end of the day, they say they're gratified by the fact that they're saving and changing lives.
No one can question the dedication of volunteer firefighters. The men and women I met have made the business of firefighting their lifelong advocacy. But their hope is that one day there won't be any more fires to help extinguish.
Next, on Assignment Asia, striking a balance between wildlife protection and human habitation.
Located in the Indian state of Tamil Nadu, the Mudumalai Tiger Reserves is home to a large variety of wildlife and endangered species. It is also home to local populations, some of whom are struggling to survive in these areas earmarked for conservation. Jyothy Karat traveled to Nilgiris to check out the lives of the inhabitants who are hoping and waiting to be relocated.
When the dogs bark at night in the villages of Mudumalai Tiger Reserve, it can only mean one thing. Wild animals are nearby.
ടൈഗർ ബത്തല നായ ഇട്ട് കൊടുത്തത് നായ ചില സമയത്ത് പുള്ളി വന്നാലേ പുലിയൊക്കെ ഇങ്ങനെ കയറി വരും അങ്ങനെ വിശ്വസിച്ചിട്ട് വരരുത് ചില സമയത്ത് അത് ഒരു ഒച്ചിട്ടാൽ നമ്മൾ ഓടാൻ പറ്റില്ല ആന ആനാണെങ്കിൽ എത്ര സ്പീഡിൽ വരുന്നറിയോ അത് ആന ഓടിച്ച് കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ടോ?
40-year-old Subramani and his family lives in a village deep inside a forest reserved for tigers. Their simple mud house is lit by kerosene lamps and battery-powered LED lamps. They belong to a forest-dwelling community called the Mountaden Chetties.
പൂർവികർ ഞങ്ങൾ ഇവിടെയാണ് ജനിച്ചു വളർന്നതൊക്കെ ഇവിടെയാണ്. സത്യം പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഈ ഗൂഡല്ലൂർ താലൂക്കും മൗണ്ടാടൻ സെറ്റിൻ്റെ ഒരു കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഏരിയ ആയിരുന്നു ഗൂഡല്ലൂർ താലൂക്ക്. അതിന്ന് മാറി മാറി കേരളം, കർണാടകയും ബാംഗ്ലൂരും അങ്ങനെ എല്ലാ ആൾക്കാരും ഇവിടെ എത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ എന്താക്കിയെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അത് ടൗണാക്കി മാറ്റി ഇത് കാടായി മാറി. കാടിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിൽ ഞങ്ങൾ പട്ടു.
Subramani says his ancestors have lived here for more than 1,000 years. The Mudumalai Tiger Reserve, however, is one of the most important tiger habitats in India. In an effort to conserve endangered species of wildlife and shrinking forest cover, the Government of India has accorded the highest degree of protection to these forests. But in the bargain, the community had to give up the basic amenities of life.
1950 ಫಾರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಡಿಕ್ಲೇರ್ ಕಂತು ಗೂಡಲ್ಲೂರು ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ಮುದುಮಲೆ ಅದು ಕಂಡು 71 ಫಾರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟ್ ಕೊಂಡ್ರು, 81 ವೈಲ್ಡ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟ್ ಕೊಂಡ್ರು, ಈಗ ಟೈಗರ್ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರು. ಅಂತಂತೆ ಅಕ್ಕ ಫಾರೆಸ್ಟಿಗೆ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಫಾರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನು ವೈಲ್ಡ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನು പക്ഷെ മനസ്സಂಗ ಇನ್ನೇಗಿ ಕೊಡಕು ಹಾಲ್ಟು ಇದುವರೆಗೆ ಒಂದು ನಿಯಮ ಅನ್ಪಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಕಟ್ಟಗಿದ್ರು, ಮುಂದೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಇತ್ತು ಅದು ಕಟ್ಟಗಿದ್ರು, ನೀರು ಪೈಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಇತ್ತು, ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಇತ್ತು, ಅದೊಂದು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ರೋಡ್ ಹಾಕೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಟ್ಟಗಿದ್ರು. ಮನುಷ್ಯಂಗಳ ಸೌಕರ್യമൊക്കെ കട്ടുകിട്ടു, മൃഗങ്ങളുള്ളതൊക്കെ കുറച്ച് സ്ട്രോങ് ಮಾಡಿರು. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഞങ്ങൾ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ಗೆ ಇವರು ಮನುಷ್ಯಂಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸೇಸು ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ಗೆ ಎತ್ತಿ ಹೊರಗೆ ಹೊಟ್ಟು ಹೇಳಿ.
நான் பிறந்து வளர்ந்த ஊரெல்லாம் இதுதான். எங்களுக்கு இந்த ஊரில் எல்லாமே இயற்கையாக இருக்குது. எங்கள் அப்பாவோட எங்கள் தாத்தாவோட எல்லாரோட சொந்தமும் இங்கே தான் இருந்தது. எங்களுக்கு இந்த ஊர் ரொம்ப பிடிச்ச ஒரு ஊர். எங்களுக்கு இங்கேருந்து ஸ்கூலுக்கு போகணுன்னா குறைஞ்சது ஒரு 6 கிலோமீட்டரெல்லாம் இங்கேருந்து நடந்து போகணும். எந்த வசதியும் இல்லை, மருத்துவ வசதி அப்படிப்பட்ட எந்த இதுவுமே இல்லை. ஆனால் எங்கள் ஊரில் இருக்கிறவங்களுக்கு அப்படிப்பட்ட கவலையும் இல்லை. ஏன்னா இந்த ஊர் எங்களுக்கு விரும்பினதை கொடுக்குது. ஏன்னா நாங்கள் பிறந்தது வளர்ந்தது எல்லாம் இந்த ஊரனால எங்களுக்கு இந்த ஊரை தவிர வேறு எதுவுமே எங்களுக்கு தோணாது. எல்லாமே இந்த ஊர் தான் நாங்கள் நினச்சிட்ருப்போம். அந்த மாதிரி தான் இப்போவும் வாழ்ந்துட்டுருக்கோம்.
While her father is a farmer with little education, 15-year-old Subhashini dreams of growing up to be a nurse someday. On the other hand, Subramani worries about her safety as she goes to school through the tiger reserve.
അപ്പോൾ ഞങ്ങളെ പിള്ളേർ സ്കൂളിൽ പോകുന്ന സമയത്ത് അത് ഏത് നേരത്ത് വീട്ടിൽ എത്തൂല്ല എന്നൊരു പേടിയിലാണ് ഞങ്ങൾ സ്കൂളിൽ പറഞ്ഞു വിടുന്നത്. ഇവിടുന്ന് കുട്ടികൾ 12 കിലോമീറ്റർ ദൂരം നടന്നു പോകണം. അത് ഇവിടുന്ന് റോഡ് ശരിയില്ല, ഇല്ല വലിയ വലിയ കല്ലുകളാണ്. താഴെ നോക്കി നടന്നാൽ സൈഡിലുള്ള ആനയും കാണില്ല, ആനയെ നോക്കി നടന്നാൽ താഴെയുള്ള കല്ല് കാണില്ല. അപ്പോൾ ആ കഷ്ടങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഒന്നും വേണ്ട, പഠിക്കാനായാലും ഒരു നല്ല സുഖം കിട്ടട്ടെ എന്നുള്ള ഉദ്ദേശത്തിലാണ് ഞങ്ങൾ ഇവിടുന്ന് പോകാൻ തീരുമാനിച്ചത്.
On the side of the people, we are not able to do anything for them, like in terms of enhancing their basic amenities, in terms of providing water, even street lights. Nothing can be done in a core area. At the conservation angle, I should say that it is a habitat meant for the wildlife, and therefore it has to be maintained as such. So moving them out voluntarily, it's a two-way benefit, which both on the conservation angle and for the people living there, it benefits both.
The Mountain Chetties were one of the first forest-dwelling communities in India to volunteer to move out. They had been requesting the government for a relocation program since the 1980s. When their request fell on deaf ears, they finally decided to go to court.
I filed the case in 1998 and it came up for orders in 2007. The state of Tamil Nadu did not object to it too vehemently. And they also agreed that, in theory, they also agreed that if the people are relocated, the forest will be consolidated.
The Mountain Chetties have had to wait for decades to see any action. The court had promised adequate compensation in the form of money and land to the villagers. But more than a decade later, 100 families are still waiting.
മോനെ 10 ലക്ഷം കൊടുക്കാൻ പറഞ്ഞാൽ അത് കിട്ടിയില്ല. പിന്നെ വരുമാനം കണ്ടവൻ കിട്ടില്ല. കാരണം വരുമാനം കമ്മിയാക്കി. ഇത്ര സ്ഥലങ്ങളുണ്ട്. ഇതിന്റെ വരുമാനം അനുസരിച്ച് തന്നില്ലല്ലോ. ഒരു കുടുംബത്തിന് 10 ലക്ഷം കൊടുക്കുന്നത്, അത് ഇല്ലല്ലോ. 10 ലക്ഷം തന്നിട്ടില്ല.
What happened is because of the procrastination of the forest department and the government of Tamil Nadu, the relocation did not happen within the stipulated 1 year from the date of order 2007, and it's now 2019 now.
എപ്പോഴാ പോവുക എല്ലാവരും ഇപ്പൊ പകുതി മുക്കാൽ ഭാഗം ആൾക്കാർ പോയില്ല. ആദ്യമായിട്ട് മൊത്തത്തിൽ ഡിസംബർ തന്നെ മാറ്റി 58 കുടുംബത്തിന് മൊത്തത്തിൽ അവർക്ക് പൈസ കൊടുത്ത് പുറത്തേക്ക് വിട്ടു. അവിടെ സദ്യകളെ ആന പൊളിച്ച് ഇവിടെ അങ്ങനെ പൊടിയാക്കിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്.
According to the lawyer P.V. Ravichandran, after the relocation process started, people felt that they haven't been fairly compensated. High rates of illiteracy in the community has only made matters worse.
പോവാൻ വിഷമമാണ്. അതായത് തൊട്ടാൽ ഇത് അപ്പം തന്നെ ചൊറിഞ്ഞു കൊടുക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി കിടക്കും. അങ്ങനത്തെ കുട്ടികൾ നല്ല നല്ല കുട്ടികളാണ്. ഒരു മാസത്തിന്റെ മുന്നേ ഒരു 8 എണ്ണം കൊടുത്തു വലുത്. പൊത്തും പിന്നെ എരുമയായിട്ട് ഒരു 8 എണ്ണത്തിന് വലുത് കൊടുത്തു. ഈ പൊടി ഇനിയിപ്പോൾ ഏതായാലും ഇവിടുന്ന് പോകുന്നവരെ ഇത് കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റൂല. എങ്ങനെയെങ്കിലും അത് വളർത്തണം. അവിടെ വളർത്താൻ പറ്റുകയാണെങ്കിൽ പറ്റാൻ സൗകര്യം കിട്ടുകയാണെങ്കിൽ പിന്നെ നമ്മുടെ സ്ഥലത്ത് അവിടെ നമുക്ക് കളർന്ന സ്ഥലത്ത് സൗകര്യമില്ല. അവിടെ സ്വന്തക്കാരുടെ ബന്ധുക്കാരുടെ ആ സ്ഥലത്ത് എവിടെയെങ്കിലും സൗകര്യം ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ കൊണ്ടുപോകണമെന്നുണ്ട്. കണക്കൂട്ടിയാണ് ഞാൻ ഇപ്പോൾ വിട്ടിരിക്കുന്നത് ചെറിയ കുട്ടികളേക്ക്.
The Mountain Chetties are firm in their belief that their children will have better lives if they relocate outside of these forests. They hope that someday they would move out and live to see their children get a good education and have their dreams come true. For Assignment Asia, this is Jyothy Karat reporting from the Nilgiris.
Well, life is hard for the local population. The good news is the number of wildlife has increased, which is good for biodiversity. But the bad news is the animals frequently raid and damage the crops, making life even more difficult for the local inhabitants. That's all the time we have for this week. I'm Barnaby Lo in Manila. Thanks for watching, and join us again on Assignment Asia. Share your thoughts and contribute story ideas for future shows by contacting us on social media.